So good evening and welcome everyone. Sorry that we're starting a couple of minutes later. I had a technical issue. I thought I'd lost my questions, but hey, don't worry, they are here. So welcome to the More Yoga Connection Cafe. My name is Yvonne and I am leading on yoga journeys. So Connection Cafe, you may be aware, started up in the first lockdown. God, we can now say the first lockdown as we've got the second lockdown coming on Thursday. But it was a way to keep us all connected during lockdown. And then when George Floyd was unfortunately killed in the Black Lives Matter protest, More Yoga asked me to facilitate a space for yogis of color, or to do whatever I thought was appropriate. And I came up with this idea. This idea is asking yoga teachers of color the same 10 questions and hearing their wide and varied journey. So this is number 5, or is it 6? I think it's 5, number 5. Anyway, they're all there on the library. And so I am very pleased this evening to welcome to the Yoga Journey studio, Sabrina Kelly.
Hello.
Sabrina.
That was a nice introduction.
Wow, you know. I've been doing it a while now.
Round of applause. I haven't had one of those for a long time.
Yeah, I did like to do that. So I'm now just turning off my auto lock on my iPad with the questions so I can just have them at a glance. So how are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm really good. I just taught my final class in real life at a studio, so that was nice to just go and teach that before having this. But yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I'm
Good.
really good. Yeah, it's kind of strange. So if you're watching this back at a future date, so this is like Monday the 2nd of November, and in
Yes,
London,
I had to check that. Yeah.
in the UK, we're going into the second lockdown on Thursday the 5th. So to hear Sabrina talking about, last class in real life is to do with the lockdown. So yeah, so you are a yoga teacher.
Indeed,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. How would you introduce yourself? So this is a new question. I've just decided.
Okay, that's fine.
How would you introduce yourself? Yeah.
I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a Pilates teacher as well, but more a yoga teacher now than I am Pilates. But I'm still all of those things. Okay. I'm also an actor. I've had a little bit of work this year, but obviously not much due to the circumstances of the virus. And I'm from London. What else? I'm an ex-dancer. So many things. Oh my goodness.
Don't go into too many other questions. Who's your friend? You have a little person with you.
He's just run outside. He was our lockdown puppy, Frankie.
Oh,
and we got him right at the beginning. He's coming up to 10 months old, so he's pretty playful. He's learnt to open doors, which is not very good, but he just popped the door open. So yeah.
Amazing. Frankie. Okay.
He's a French bulldog.
Out of interest, I noticed you said you're an actor, not an actress. Just out of interest, why
I say either one. It really depends. Okay. For a long time I used actress, and now I use actor. I think you can actually use either if you're female. Yeah, you can actually use either. So yeah, I think on my Instagram it's actress, I think. Okay.
Have you been in anything that I should have recognised you from?
I did Grange Hill years ago. Like, no, I'm talking. It was 20 years ago, and I didn't have a speaking part. And then this year I did like a little promo for Nuffield when the gyms were reopening.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
A little promo for Nuffield, but nothing that's like, Game of Thrones.
Not in.
Unfortunately, no. Okay. And then I've done a few videos for Nuffield as well, but that was as a yoga teacher.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Great. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the usual set questions. So first question, honouring our ancestors, tell us your family lineage.
Okay, are you ready?
I am very ready.
I had to make a few phone calls. So I'm of mixed heritage. My mum is white British, and my biological father he's Jamaican. He's from Clarendon, and he came over during the 70s, late 70s. But my mum's side of the family, my grandmother, her father was Jewish.
Okay.
And her mother was Polish Jewish, and her mother was Irish. And then my mum's dad, my grandfather, was Scottish. So and so there's quite a mixture in there. So yeah.
What was the reaction when you were said you had to make the phone calls to find out?
Oh no, it was fine. But my mum, I think with anybody, there's quite a mixture. You're never just one thing.
No.
It's never just, you're just straight down the line. You're not just, you're not just black, you're not just white. There's all these different, our lineage goes back so far. And I think this is actually made me want to do my family tree. I think it would be really interesting.
Yeah, funny, I was going to ask you that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd really like to, because there's so much in there. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
However, my stepfather, this is probably going a little bit off the ball, but my stepfather raised me from the age of 6, and he's white.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's another influence, obviously.
Absolutely. Thank you. Where, when, and with whom was your first yoga class?
My first yoga class I was 16 years old. And it was with my grandmother on my mother's side, in a church hall, and it was with a woman called Deborah. And I remember her because she was so spiritual. I actually started off with candle gazing, yoga nidra at 16. This was
wow.
So my grandmother, who unfortunately is now in a home, she's got dementia. She was very, very spiritual. She used to buy me crystals. We used to do things together that were just like amazing, really. When I think about it now, she's very connected to spiritual practices. So it was in a church hall in Kent, in Sidcup, and we'd go and we'd lay on the floor, we'd do a little bit of sun salutations. It was very slow, and it was with a woman in their over 50s, so it was with, it wasn't the asana practice that I do today.
Right. Okay. Would you say it was like kind of stripped back, very pure, grounded yoga?
For me, it's I don't know, I hate to say this, but it was like real yoga.
That's interesting. When you say real yoga,
like,
what do you mean?
Like not throwing yourself around.
Not acrobatic.
As much as I love that, for me that was very pure, and that was my first introduction to the practice. So yeah. Okay. And I remember it well. I used to love wrapping myself up in a blanket and just drifting off. That was my favorite part.
So you say this was when you were 16, and you didn't, you kind of weren't like put off? Were your friends kind of like,
no, I loved it.
What are you doing?
To be honest,
think you were weird?
That's a really good question. I was at a dance school. I got a scholarship at 16 to go to Doreen Bird in Kent, which was predominantly ballet, contemporary dance, and then acting and singing on top of that. So movement was part of my life, and they just used to say, my grandma would pick me up, my nana would pick me up, I call her nana, and they'd say, where are you going? And say, I'm going to yoga, and that would just be it.
Wow.
So and I actually started practicing Pilates around that age as well. So it was all introduced to me. I was very lucky, really. It's very privileged.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you didn't resist. You just kind of embraced it.
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. From just by the bed there, I've got a box of crystals, and my partner says to me, "You've got half of Brighton Beach by the bed."
Really?
But I've got a box of crystals, and these precious stones, have been with me since I was around probably 5.
Wow.
So my grandma used to buy them for me. They used to come stuck to magazines, and then she'd collect them from other places. And then as an adult, sort of into my teens, I stopped getting them, but I always knew they'd be something special, so I kept them, and now they're back out.
Wow.
So it's almost like I've gone in a full circle with that. So yeah.
So which came first, the yoga or the Pilates?
The yoga.
The yoga was first.
Yoga,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you realize you wanted to teach yoga?
I think I always knew it would be part of my life. It was something that I kind of went towards when I needed it. And then it became a regular practice in my 20s. But I think I started practicing quite frequently at Down to Earth, which is, I know you teach there as well, don't you? Down to Earth.
Recently, yes.
With Rebecca Richmond. And other teachers, and Nikita. I used to go to Nikita's class, not regularly, but I'd go to her class, and I was just so amazed with how in depth the teaching was, and how I felt in the class. I'd come away most weeks and cry, you know. I'd be the one crying, and there wouldn't really be any reason to. It would just be a good release for me. Because I was having a bit of a difficult time at the time, with various things in life, like a breakup and bits and bobs around that, and feeling very, very unstable with work. It was a place where I could come and ground that was for myself. So I remember speaking to Rebecca and saying I'd like to become a teacher, but I'd already done my teaching in my ballet degree to teach, and teaching Pilates. So my ballet degree was 3 years. And my Pilates course was 950 hours. So I was kind of done with training.
Right.
So I had to wait until I was ready for it.
Yes.
And then, so I'd say that was around 2015, but I was a regular practitioner from 2012. And I was actually practicing Bikram for a while, which I know a lot of people go through. I was doing classes at Fierce Grace on the offer, you know.
Yeah. We all get hooked on.
And actually, I love to swear. I loved the mirror, and now I just don't even want a mirror. But I actually inquired about their teacher training, but I ended up triggering an old injury from practicing in Bikram, probably too much, and pulling my body around, and decided it wasn't good for me. So ended up becoming a Pilates teacher. So that was the journey. So it was always there in the background. It was like I practiced once or twice a week, you know.
So where was the ballet? When did you start? So did ballet come before yoga? And
ballet came before everything. Yeah. I was 3 years old when I went to my first ballet class, and I loved it. I really loved it. I just remember. I actually remember going into the studio. Maybe that's my earliest memory, like good memory. And it was in a church hall in Bromley, in Kent, which is where I grew up. So yeah. And then I danced up until my late 20s, really. Now just go to class for a hobby, just to move.
Wow. So at 16, were you still doing ballet, yoga, and Pilates?
All of them, tap dancing, singing, acting. So I didn't do my A levels. I actually, because I got a scholarship, it meant that every single day for 3 years you were training to get a professional job as a dancer. So I didn't do my A levels. So actually, when I did my degree, I went backwards and I had to write an essay to prove that I could write. And the Royal Academy let me in on what I offered, basically. Just because you're supposed to have A levels, aren't you, to do a degree? But I was dead set on teaching. I wanted to be a teacher. That was like my, that was kind of like, I stopped dancing, I got injured, and teaching was my plan B. But actually, I realised I probably should have done that anyway.
So you were a ballet teacher before a yoga teacher?
Yes, yeah. So it's ballet, Pilates, yoga.
Wow, what a combination!
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so where, when, and with whom was your first yoga teacher training?
My first yoga teacher training was with the Yoga People in Goa, and that was in 2018. And I was there for a month in Mandrem, and then I've continued to sort of add on to that since. I did another training with them, Rocket and Pattern. So I trained in Ashtanga Vinyasa and Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first yoga class that I got when I came home was Rocket.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's been kind of what I mainly teach. And now I did mandala with them as well. Mandala also incorporated yin. And then I did Rocket and Science recently in September. Rocket and Science, which was basically anatomy.
Okay.
Basically anatomy.
It was a new style of class that I didn't know about.
Rocket and Science, you know, you get your goggles out and you start doing.
Okay.
So that was with the Good Life Yoga School with Marcus Vader and Hannah Whittingham and Christian DiGiorgio. So there was a strong focus on anatomy, and then the Rocket sequence in the morning and sort of breaking down, deconstructing sort of asana. So I've done lots of training since then. And then my 50 hours with more yoga as well, which was great.
Okay.
With Charlotte, that was cool.
Okay, lovely. Do you recall, so your first, if you think about the first teacher training in Goa, or any of them actually that you can remember, do you remember how many people of colour in proportion to the number of people on the training were there?
There were, I believe there was 3, including me. There were three including myself, yeah.
And how big was the group?
32, 35, 30 something.
And was that sort of consistent through most of the trainings you went through?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
From memory, did it, because you've done you've got your ballet background, your Pilates background, when you did those teacher trainings, was the mix different or
much
roughly
less like at the Royal Academy? I don't want to go off topic, but I actually wrote my dissertation on a topic with what's going on at the moment in the yoga world, which I'm sure we're going to touch on, the lack of, diverse teachers from different cultural backgrounds, different race. I actually did my dissertation on this in the ballet world. So
I'd love to read that. You'd be happy to share it.
Oh yeah, I've been more than happy to. Just look out, don't ignore the typos. I had a meltdown writing it, but I'd love for someone to read it. That'd be great. And then I sort of closed the book because I started going down the route of abolishment of slavery in the US and in the UK, and it got so heavy, and I was like, oh my goodness, this topic is so big, But it was a time in my life that was very poignant, because I was coming to a place of knowing that I was always kind of the other, ticking the box other, feeling, coming into this awareness of like not really knowing who I was, and really wanting to work on my identity, and my voice really as well. So at the Royal Academy, there was myself, a really lovely woman from Colombia, and then a girl from China. I was the only mixed race or black woman on the course in my year.
And again, for a roughly group, it's about 30 again.
30 at the Royal Academy, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could just see from my graduation photo on Facebook. That's easy to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have been meaning to see if I can approach some studios who do the training to see if they would be, if they capture the stats and if they'd be willing to share it, because I think in one of these sessions it would be good to share it. So I'll see if I can sort that out. Okay, so moving on to the highs and lows of the wellness industry. Starting with the lows, and then we'll end on the highs. What comes to mind?
Let's go down first.
Let's go down first.
I would say, and I know this is mentioned a lot because I've watched a lot of the interviews as well. For me, it's the coming from a place, being born in Croydon. I'm a Croydon girl, born in Croydon, coming from Southeast London, or Bromley, being in that area, coming from a background that's not particularly poor or rich, but just kind of working class. There's a lack of people that are sort of down to earth in like the bigger studios, and this kind of elitism that you do get in classical ballet, that you do get in other places that I've worked in, that you do get in Pilates. I've seen it across the board. But then there is that for certain studios as well, that you do have, you know, places like More Yoga and other studios that I teach at, but this kind of elite sort of circle and this sort of, I want to say Instagram famous, you know, people like this mass following. And then like, if you're in that club, you're in that club. And then if you practice here, you know, it's like this sort of elitism. To me, that's this clickiness that sometimes you get when you walk into classes where people don't want to move their mat and they don't want to say hello. And that for me, it's not yoga. You know, it's a space that should be for everyone. So yeah, and there has to be a certain price on things, because otherwise how are the teacher's going to get paid? Yeah. How business is going to run. But then you're also excluding a huge amount of people, a huge group of people, because they might not feel like they belong in the space. And I felt like that as a teacher. I felt like that before in a class, and I'm a teacher, and I'm able-bodied. I'm lucky enough that I can move my body, you know, and I know what to do. I know where Warrior One is, and yeah. So yeah, I would say that is the thing that really, and that's quite personal to me, really.
No, it's all about you. This is your conversation.
Yeah.
So absolutely about you. So those are the lows. What are the highs of the wellness industry for you?
I think for me, definitely the community. That's one thing that, especially coming into the yoga world from Pilates, from ballet, the community is very strong in the yoga world. I mean, things like this, amazing, you know, that we can do this and come together. The support that I've had from teachers has just been wonderful. I didn't get that in my ballet or Pilates career. I did get support. I don't know really. I mean, the Pilates world is big, but it's not as big as the yoga community. I do think, even though we're lacking in diversity and representation of Black teachers, of Asian teachers, you know, I do think that it's because it's vaster, there are more people to connect with. Whereas Pilates, it's like a very small club, and I trained in classical Pilates, which is quite an even smaller club, you know. Or I'm in a place where I'm just more open. It could be a bit of both. But yeah, the support I've had from studios and other teachers has just been great.
Okay, lovely.
So just community. And I mean, honestly, obviously the students, like when I see people coming back, or see you know, somebody in their first class and they say to me they really enjoyed it, and then they come back next week, it just completely warms my heart. My students are students are my world. They're like my children. They're like my babies. And just, you know, seeing them, I can be in a really bad mood and it completely lifts my spirit. The connection, you know.
Yeah, connection is key.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to bring you back to a point that you made out of interest. When you said classical Pilates, what is classical Pilates compared
oh my goodness
to non-classical?
Do we want to go down this route? Basically, you've got, I'm gonna really annoy, I was going to swear then, but I won't swear. I'm going to really annoy all the Pilates teachers. I found there was this segregation between, and other teachers will say the same, contemporary teachers and classical. And classical is basically Joseph Pilates' so-called work. So Joseph Pilates, I'll just give you a quick rundown for people that don't know. He was born in Germany. He moved to the UK for a while during World War I, got stuck in a camp here on I think it was the Isle of Man. My brain's a bit rusty now. Ended during the war, moved back to Germany, but during the time here, he started to build the equipment. So the reformer, the Cadillac, the chair.
Right. Okay.
He started to rehab people's bodies because these war veterans couldn't move their bodies in the beds. You know, he's a genius. He used to teach everybody in his pants. with no top on. I mean, that wouldn't happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it would. But basically his work, and it's written in a book called Return to Life. And now then you've got this kind of contemporary work that's come out of classical work, and it's kind of modified, deconstructed exercises from Joe's original work. So there's a little bit of friction between the two. Okay. Classical teachers usually train for a bit longer.
Right.
You know, like I said, my course was 950 hours, and that was taken in just over a year. And I did 4 anatomy exams, 4 practical exams. So that was 8 exams, hundreds of hours, you know. So yeah, you train on all the equipment. Yeah, it's very different.
Because when you think like an average yoga teacher training is like 200 hours, or someone with 350 hours. Okay, yes, you can go on to 500 hours, but like a base is 200.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, dokies. What's your one ask of the wellness industry?
Oh, my one ask. I definitely believe in inclusion, and not just inclusion for teachers, for us, inclusion for the space that we're providing, a safe space that, you know, that welcomes everybody from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, different ages, different sizes, different colours. That's so important. And you know, this kind of ingrained, what's it called? I did it with Stacey Graham, and I can't remember. Unconscious bias, for that to get squashed. Because we all have them. So yeah, inclusion and definitely diversity, in every single way, you know. So you walk into a class and everyone looks totally different. That's what it should be like. And maybe to reduce the price of clothing that we buy. because my wages do not fund the amount of Lululemon leggings that I bought into, and yeah, I'm not going to be buying any more.
There are other brands out there apart from Lululemon.
There are,
but
they don't feel as good. They don't feel as good. They don't. Yeah, I like the way they feel.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. But yeah, it's very expensive, and like you said, that's another topic in itself. We're creating these kind of clones that all look the same in the same outfit and the same, you know. That's enough.
Okay. I'm not ignoring the chat box. It's just that I tend to go to it once we finish the questions, and I'll pick it up from there. So I will come to it shortly. So moving on. This is interesting, and I have to rephrase this question. What got you through the first lockdown as we approach the second lockdown? What got you through the first one?
This is interesting, isn't it? The first, do you know what? Having my partner, who is like a rock, he's so strong. He's my earth. I am fire, and I'm quite a bit of water. I'm figuring out. Having my partner and having the dog. There's 3 things, and then my students. My students were just, seeing people show up on the tiny screen, you know, each week, and the same people showing up, and you know, laughing when Frankie's attacking me because we got him from a puppy. So, you know, just being completely okay with him randomly just jumping over on me and, you know, attacking me and growling and barking. But yeah, my students, yoga, but really the people that I teach. Because some days I didn't feel like practicing. So, you know, I did connect with my teachers, but for me, it's really about getting out in the space, and I didn't realize how important that was until that was taken away. And actually, it's really interesting because now preparing for the second lockdown, in the last few weeks, I started to find myself practice again, which it's almost like it was supposed to happen. So I'm now able to, I'm a very fidgety person. I get very anxious. I get very, you know, hence all the yoga. So it's really great now that I can actually focus and take classes online and concentrate. because there's so many distractions at home.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So many.
Definitely. Okay, so moving further down the list, rest in peace, George Floyd. How many additional followers did you get on Instagram? And also, did you have many studios approaching you as they try to diversify?
I had one studio approach me, which was really nice. I'd say my followers went up, but not to an extreme level. Okay. I was thinking about this, and I actually connected, like a lot of my friends messaged me. A lot of my friends that were on the yoga teacher training, my first one, messaged me and just said, "How are you? I've been thinking of you," nice. Which was really, really lovely. And then I also connected with other yoga teachers of colour, which was really nice, and made some really lovely friendships online. So I feel something really great came out of it, even though I don't know if I think we had this chat earlier. Yes, we did. I'm right near the US Embassy. Right. So all of the protests were going past where I lived, and I decided to join them. And at first I found it like really overwhelming. And then some days I found it quite heavy because we could see the route every time they marched. We had about 4 marches in a week. And then, I decided to step back for a little bit because I found it all a bit too much, because it was right on, we had people downstairs. But yeah, so it did really affect the energy, obviously, not of the whole world, but in this particular area in London, it was pretty intense, very intense. To have that lockdown and have nobody on your doorstep, then to go to looking outside and there's thousands of people out there. It was a beautiful coming together, but it was also quite a shock. Yes, yeah, to acclimatise, yeah. But I wouldn't say I had a vast amount of followers afterwards. Just more connections, actually.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
More connections.
Connection is key. Okay. So what's the rest of 2020 looking like for you? What's coming up? What would you like to promote?
Oh wow. Well, I've got my birthday coming up this month.
When is it?
I'm turning 35, which I always freak out about another year on this planet, but I'm very lucky to be here. It's on the 24th.
It'll be a lockdown birthday.
I know it will be. Me, the dog, and my partner. It's on the 24th of November, so I'm a Sagittarius. And then I'm getting together with another yoga teacher, Zaz. That's her name on Instagram, and we've actually decided to get together and brainstorm before we go into lockdown. Create an open circle for teachers that need just to connect and support each other. So, we'll log in every couple of weeks and just have a general chat, and there'll be like a theme for the weeks. We're meeting this week before everything goes under. Okay. So that's really exciting. I've had lots of replies already. And then what was the other thing? There was something else, and now I can't remember. Oh no, forgotten.
Hopefully it will come back to you.
Yeah.
You can post it tomorrow. I'm sure.
I know. Yes, I know. I'm working on a fundraiser. So I'm a massive animal lover, always have been, ever since I was a child. And when I visited India the first time around, I went to a place called the Dog Temple. And they provide shelter for 80-something dogs from the street. So I've been setting up a fund. I started saving the first time I went out there and continued. And then when I had the lockdown classes, I decided to, my first Zoom week, I would donate all the money from that week for the Dog Temple, because I was in India actually when all this kicked off the first time in March. Ah, right. Okay. And I got back on the 19th of March, so just before India went into lockdown, and managed to get a flight home. So I visited the Dog Temple again, and basically I've been putting aside money from each Zoom class. So this fundraiser will go live this week. I've created a little video. and I'll just be donating part of my classes to that. Even though, you know, some of us are out of work, I still want to try and give back as I'm in a position to. So yeah, that will be going live this week. My first edited video. So
amazing, lovely. So before I open up to Q&A, is there anything you would like to recap on? Anything you've forgotten to mention? Any final thoughts before I open the floor?
I mean, I don't think so. I just think for me, it's been like the amazing support that has been very present in the yoga community. So, you know, from various teachers like Layla, she funded me to do, she funded for me to do an anti-racism course. Because I've had issues with my own identity growing up, because I didn't grow up with my biological father. So both of my parents were white and my whole family was white. So actually the whole movement that's happened recently, well, it's happened again, hasn't it? It keeps happening, this movement of race. And it really asks you, and I'm sure that everybody that, you know, doesn't see themselves as just white has gone through something out of the whole George Floyd incident and this Black Lives Matters. It touches you, whether you've got whether you're a parent of a child that's of mixed heritage, or whether you're in an interracial relationship. It touches everyone. So Layla's been, just to thank you really to my teachers, like Layla's been super supportive. She funded me to go on this course, and I did this course with Stacey, and it was just great. And I'm doing my own work, you know. Jonelle, like,
this is through or your retreats. Dr. Stacey Graham, who runs all your retreats. So if we give a shout out to Stacey, and we can find her on Instagram.
I really recommend that course. It was fantastic. I want to do it again, actually. And then also Jonelle Lewis has been great. I had a week where I felt particularly down about something, and she contacted me. She FaceTimed me from overseas. She said, "I'm going to call you," and she had my back. Like, Davina, she's been great. I've had so many people that have just been amazing, supportive, you know, and people that I don't speak to all the time. So just the wonderful sense of connection and humanity, really, in a difficult time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's see if there are any questions out there. So good evening again, once again, you lovely viewers out there. Thanks for being present once again. Floor's yours. You can come off mute and ask Sabrina a question directly, or you can type it into the chat box. In fact, let's see the couple of messages that were in there. So as you're thinking about your questions, so there was John from earlier. Thanks so much for a great chat. Have another meeting now, so we'll watch the rest later. Have a lovely evening. So
I think that's Joe actually. That's Joe Hill, one of my students.
Beg your pardon. Joe Hill. Yes, it's Joe Hill.
I met her at, it does look like John. I met her at More Yoga. She was in my class in Soho. Yeah, that's really lovely.
Lovely. Okay. And then message from Sam agreeing with you about the clothing. Clothing is far too expensive. Yeah.
Outrageous, and it makes it so exclusive.
Yeah, that's why I've never done the Lululemon thing.
I love doing yoga in my baggy pants and a baggy t-shirt. That's how I love practicing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you feel like there's almost all these pressures to wear something really, and I've fallen into that trap, you know. And then lo and behold, I'm spending all my money on clothing when I should really be spending it on probably something else.
Okay, are there any questions out there? Don't be shy. You can type them in the chat box if you'd like. Or again, we know we don't draw it out. If there are no questions, we won't force for any questions.
I think it's almost like a sigh of relief when there's no questions.
Here's a question from Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Oh, wow.
How did you feel teaching your first class?
My first yoga class. I'll go with that as we're in the yoga topic.
Well, maybe actually, to be fair, because of your, Pilates, ballet.
I actually will answer that, and this will probably take me half an hour until the end of the session. So I want to share something. I'm really warm, sorry, because the dog's like laying on my legs. My my first teaching exam, one of my first teaching exams in ballet, I was so nervous. I've always got so nervous teaching. I was so nervous, I actually failed part of this exam, my teaching ballet, but I think that definitely made me. I mean, the ballet teacher she wasn't a very nice person. I'm going to say it, you know, she didn't like me. I used to get told my hair looked messy. Here's, you know, I'm setting off triggers now. You know, your hair looks messy, your thighs are too big, all the tick boxes you get for, you know, in that world. Not all teachers, ballet teachers are like that, but so she had it in for me. So yeah, I didn't pass because I just fell to pieces, but it made me a better teacher. When I taught my first ballet class, I was teaching little children, and it was just magical. It was great, and all of that disappeared. And then I taught adults as well, so I taught babies and adults. And then I eventually had my own ballet school, and that was just amazing because I had, you know, it was mine. So when I taught my first Pilates class, I was just in my element because I love talking. You know, I love just being not in control, but being in front of people and just guiding them. So I already had the teaching tools there. When I taught my first yoga class, as in like real students, not like the teachers the people that you teach on your teacher training, because that's not a real class. I was a nervous wreck. I tell you where it was Rocket. It was in Nuffield House. That was my first real yoga class in a gym where I'd already taught these people Pilates.
Right. Okay.
And it was all my regulars and a few new people. And I was just thinking, what am I doing? I only got back last week. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't, you know, and I had major imposter syndrome. I started speaking and like the Sanskrit was coming out and I thought, I don't know who's saying that. I don't know. So it was a really weird and wonderful experience. And when I finished, I was just so grateful. I was like, I've definitely done the right thing. It was really beautiful, actually.
And what did the students say at the end of that class?
Yeah, they enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. Yeah, and that, you know, some of them come to my Zoom still now. So it can't have been that bad.
No,
2 years later.
Exactly.
Because it's almost exactly 2 years since I started teaching yoga. So it can't have been that bad.
No, thank you. Any other questions before we let this lady go off into the night? You might be lucky. Here we go. Oh, from Tor. She's such a regular. Thank you, Tor, for being present once again. Thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. Very welcome. Okay, well, it's been a pleasure to hear your wonderful journey, Sabrina. And please do post your fundraiser and your drop-in session for teachers, as you say. And it'd be great to follow the rest of your journey. So thank you so very much. Let's just see, something just popped into the box. Yes, thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thanks.
You're most welcome.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for the people that tuned in. And yeah, I think it's a great platform for teachers, and it's great what you're doing as well. So thank you.
No, you're most welcome. I enjoy it.
I have to come to one of your classes.
Yes, indeed. You'll be very welcome.
When we come out of online, we haven't got any excuses now, have we?
We're probably teaching at the same time, but never mind.
Yeah, that usually happens.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you so much everyone for tuning in. It's great to see some regulars, and whoever's here, thank you so much for taking the time to support Connection Cafe and Yoga Journeys. Have a wonderful evening all. Take care. Night night.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye,
Sam.
Bye.
Bye, Christina. Bye.
I'll give you a ring, Sabrina.
Sorry?
I'll give you a call.
Okay. Oh.